Welcome to the Silhouettes of Success podcast with your host, successful entrepreneur, broker, and business mentor, Amber Weitzer. Because success comes in all shapes, sizes, and styles, the Silhouettes of Success podcast is shining the light on industrious women with a collection of curated conversations of intentional inspiration designed to inspire your heart, ignite your mind, feed your soul, and gift you with actionable insights directly from inspirational, everyday women who've shown tenacity, grit, and grace, having taken on the challenges in their lives and business and won. Remarkable, down-to-earth, and relatable, Amber and her guests will share with you uplifting and extraordinary real-life success stories, motivational ideas that just might help spark something within you. With the deepest desire to serve you, help you grow so you can begin to shine the light that will illuminate your very own silhouette of success. So, let's get to it.
Hello, and welcome to the Amber Weitzer podcast, Silhouettes of Success. Today, it's a serious treat to be visiting with, hands down, one of the most extraordinary, warm-hearted, and kind women I know. She comes from a legacy of hard work and love for real estate with a champion fighter spirit and a beautiful smile. So please help me welcome Beckie Shiveley, daughter, wife, mother, and senior mortgage loan officer. Hello, Beckie.
Hello. It's wonderful to be here today, and thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. So, Beckie, I've been so eagerly anticipating connecting with you and letting you share your Silhouette of Success story. So once again, thanks for joining us today.
Absolutely.
Beckie, I'd like to have you help illustrate the early shaping of your Silhouette of Success, taking a little bit of time to share with us about your background. It's one of my favorite stories. I remember where we were and what we were doing. We were sitting having some coffee together when you first told me of the story of your background. So share a little bit of it with us.
Okay. Are you talking about the one with my kind of growing up real estate with my grandmother?
Yes.
Okay. I was very, very lucky early on in my life that I had very hands-on grandparents. Some people get to live close to the grandparents, some don't. I had one set that were very, very close locally and another set that they just weren't. And gosh, it was probably about third or fourth grade. There was some situations that were happening at school. To be fully transparent and kind of vulnerable, I was diagnosed with dyslexia. And it was earth-shattering at that time because they didn't know what to do with people, quote unquote, like me. And when my grandmother was given the oh my gosh, this is a tragedy, my grandmother's like, we'll just train it right out of her. And so that began my career in real estate. Every weekend she would come to pick me up. I don't think I can say the word, but it starts with a B and it, kind of rhymes with a pitch. And the real estate agents would get together at Bob's Big Boy. If you're from California, that was a big, kind of a great restaurant to go to. We'd always sit up at the bar area and all the real estate agents would come and they would get ready for Friday pre-open house view. And so the women would all get together right after school and they would kind of do the pre-tour of the homes. And then they would be like, okay, Sunday after church, they would get their husband to go to all of the homes that they wanted to see. That is where I got my start. I sat and always listened to the real estate agents. Part of my training was the MLS back in the day used to come in a book. And my job was to run her books. We would stop by the Board of Realtors. We'd get her MLS book. Not very many agents could afford those. She was a good agent and she could afford to run her own MLS books. And my job was to cut those books up and then the 3 to 4 cities that she really kind of marketed towards and were her farm, it was my job to organize those based off of bedroom, bathroom, city count, things like that. And I got to know those books very, very well. my first payday came when there was an agent. His name was John. He came in and he goes, I don't know what's going on. I can't help this lady. I can't find what she wants. She's getting frustrated. And I began listening to him, and he was explaining what she was looking for. And again, this was kind of a time frame when kids were seen and not heard from, though I was kind of the exception because I kind of ran with everybody, but still you didn't speak out of turn. And I was sitting there and I was just doing my thing, and I just went, oh, I know which house she's talking about. And I realized, I just interrupted an adult conversation. And my grandmother just said, everybody looked, and my grandmother said, say it a little louder. And I was like, what? She's all, say it louder. You have something important to say. And so she was the one that kind of gave me my voice, where even though, yes, you may be a child, you do have a voice. You have something valid. So validate what you just said. And so I said, I know which home she's talking about. And he looked and said, what? And I looked to my grandmother. I said, it's in the box. And my grandmother said, you're not talking to me, you're talking to him. And I turned and I looked at him and I sat up straight, just like she had taught me. And I said, I know which home she's talking about. It's in my grandmother's MLS books. And my grandmother said, no, they're in your MLS books. And I said, they're in my MLS box. And so my grandmother gave me the keys to her car. I went and I got the box and I pulled out the MLS. And it was just a little square sheet, kind of like index card style. And I went to give it to him. And my grandmother said, no problem, but I want $20. She's all, because I want that back. And the following week, all of a sudden, there was a stack of cookies with hot chocolate, with whipped cream, and some little chocolate shavings. And there was a $20 bill. And I didn't understand. And my grandmother's like, are you kidding me, really? And he goes, before we even walked in, we pulled up. She could see through the window. She saw the tree. She saw the pool. And once I opened up the door, she goes, this is it. I want to put an offer in. Wow. And that is how I began my real estate career. From there, it budded to where I worked with TRW, which was a real estate service in California. I helped, kind of get some of those systems up and running in California. From there, they went from book to microfiche, to floppy, to CD, on to mainframe, and now online services of real estate information. And I've just been in almost every aspect of real estate since I was like third or fourth grade.
Girl, you gave me goosebumps.
Well, thank you.
And I knew most of that story, but you left out the cookies before.
Yeah, well, chocolate chip cookies. Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you, Bob's Big Boy, they had the best cookies because they were crispy on the outside, but kind of gooey on the inside. And they were so yummy. And that's kind of my love affair with everything sugar and fat and everything that goes along with it.
All the fun things. And it's so fun to have you tell that story. Again, there's elements of that this was the first time I've heard that. When you tell the story and when we tell our stories, you can just visualize the whole scene unfolding. And you did it so beautifully, because we have similar upbringing with regards to growing up in that industry. But I'll tell you what, we have Bob's Big Boys in Michigan too growing up. And he is my favorite. Anyways, well, that is just amazing, Beckie. Well, thank you for that and sharing again those stories and the great memories of Big Boy and, all of those fun things, the MLS book. So we were talking a little bit about the skills that maybe you have brought in to your current role in your life that that you really can trace back to those days in that environment with your grandmother and all the fun, crazy ladies. So can you identify a skill or two to share with us?
Yes. I think one of the biggest skills is knowing that watching the real estate agents on the one side and how they're trying to service their clients and help people and transition people. And sometimes, even though it's a fun experience, it is a very stressful time. So learning how to help people transition from one home to another, whether it be across the street, across the nation, across the world. There is a skill set in that because there are many balls that are up in the air that you're trying to juggle. And some aspects of it you can control and others of it you can't. You just have influence. And working with people, working with teams, finding out where the strengths come from certain people and putting those teams together to be able to give the client the best experience possible. I learned that at a very, very early age. On a personal side, I learned how to work within my brain. And I know that sounds weird, but as you're growing up and you're learning who you are, some of the things that you possess and some of the things that you don't possess. I didn't grow up religious, but I grew up spiritual. My grandmother always said, sometimes you just don't get certain things. Like God doesn't give you a certain gift, but he gives you another gift that helps to compensate for maybe a gift that you didn't get. And so she was very good at championing for me and showing me, these are your strengths. These are the things that are your weakness. We'll work on your weaknesses a little bit so we can get them there, but we're going to really work on your strengths. And I think coming more from a strength-based application, which can go against what some people talk about in life, they always say, oh, focus on your weaknesses, that way you can grow. My grandmother always believed on accentuating the positive, looking at those gifts that you were just innately given and really just apply that pressure and apply that, and you will be compounded. You will see greater gifts come. And so as a child, it was kind of hard to see where some people were excelling more than I was. But then where I was learning, I could excel much greater. And people often would come to me and say, I don't understand how you can do this or how you can do that. That's kind of where my strength comes from, is strategizing, seeing a big picture, both frontwards and backwards and side to side, and being able to get that picture through teamwork. I think it's those two skills that really helped me reach the success that I've had.
What an absolute gift. You know, it's interesting because as you and I are talking, one of the very next and important topics I knew I wanted to touch on with you specifically was strength. And I didn't know that you were going to share that. So I think we are definitely in sync, but what an absolute gift from your grandmother. And you mentioned it a moment ago that perhaps current trainings and the teachings that might be out there are hammering people to focus on where you're weak or where this. And I know there's two schools of thought on that, but what a genuine gift that she gave you was to focus on those strengths, because moving forward even a little bit more, you have a mammoth amount of strength that I've watched from afar, that you have a greater amount of luminous kindness and big heart for others. And I think that also probably played a very big role in some of your challenges that you faced in the last couple of years. Do you, more of a personal nature, did you want to share any of that too?
Yes. I know this can be a touchy situation for a lot of people because most people either know someone or have experienced this themselves. In November of 2018, I was having a very busy day. I was getting going and I had appointments and I was meeting people and networking and helping people get into their homes through their loans, and had a couple closings. And it was just it was a beautiful day. It was a gorgeous day. And I was going in for my first mammogram, and I was in the car having that self-talk, and I was like, okay, so I'm going to pop in here really quick. I call it picture day. We're going to do picture day for the girls. Then it's like, as soon as I'm done there, I've got to go run over here and drop this off. I've got to go to the title company to do this. I've got a couple of pop buys to do. I've got the closing. Oh, yes. And I need to stop by Costco and get my ice cream. And so it was a really fun-filled day. It was like, okay. And it was very interesting because I pulled in and I got my headset off, got everything packed in. I opened up my door, and before my foot hit the ground, I had a voice just permeate all the way through me. And it's not the first time I've heard this voice, so I was very familiar with this voice. And it just said, "This day isn't going to end well." And I immediately, my head just shot up, and I was like, I answered it. I'm like, okay. And I put my foot back in the door and I closed the car door. And I sat there and I'm like, I'm sorry, what did you just say? And it just said again, "This day isn't going to end well." And it was at that very moment that I knew, oh dear, this day is definitely not going to end well. And it was at that moment that I just said a really quick prayer. And sorry, it's still kind of painful at times. I just said, I am so grateful that you're here with me right now. And obviously, I'm going to need you. So all I ask is, I obviously can't have this removed from me at this moment in my life. But if you can just help me walk through this journey the best way possible, if I can do it with enough grace and poise and dignity, it would sure be appreciative. And I would really, really be grateful. It was that moment that I realized sometimes the platitude that some women, me in particular, I have always felt like I'm a daughter of God. And if he is the king, then that means that I'm a princess. And it was at that moment that I had the vision of him in that car with me, just hugging and holding me and adjusting the tiara, and said, "Listen, if you're going to be a princess, you can't act for anything less. I need you to get up. I need you to stand up, and I need you to walk in there and don't make a fool of yourself, because you are my daughter." And it was at that moment I said, absolutely no problem. I got out of the car the second time, and this time there was a sense of peace and a sense of calm that had come completely over me that definitely didn't come from me. The man in the next car looked at me like, "You doing okay over there, girlfriend?" I was like, oh, okay. So there was just kind of like a witness. He had no idea, but he's sitting talking to myself in the car. And he's looking at me like, "Are you okay?"
Not yourself, right?
Yeah, not myself.
Yeah,
And
we're talking. Yeah.
I walked in, and it was at that moment that, as they're starting picture day and the picture was starting to develop, I could see the look on her face, and she was like panicked. And so I closed my eyes, and she's like, "Are you going to faint?" And I'm like, "No, I'm just trying to give you some privacy." And she looked at me like, "What?" And I said, I can see the look on your face. Or I said, "I already know what it is." And she was like, "Wait, what?" So she leaves the room, and I'm stranded there, picture day in process.
Sure.
And I'm like, okay, this is comfortable. Can't move. I'm stuck. Like, is anyone coming back? And so the doctor came in, and he's like, "You're kind of freaking people out. Like, how do you know?" And I'm like, "I just know." And then I looked at him. I said, "Okay, well, tell me, am I wrong in what I think?" And he looked at me and he goes, "No, you're not wrong in what you think." And I'm like, okay. So the day went through, had other things. I had to have a biopsy done, and came back at 3:00 with my husband. And the nurses had talked to my husband and said, when she walked out of here, there was such a peacefulness with her. And the strength that she walked out of here with was something we had never seen or witnessed before. And my husband said, "That's my wife." And I said, "No, that's God. That's not me." There have been many times in my life where I have been completely blessed to be the recipient of footprints. where I am no longer walking and I am just carried through my life. And that is what I have had for the last 2 years, is he has completely carried me through all of this process. COVID was not easy to go through. Unfortunately, I did get COVID shortly after I had finished my last treatment, and everybody was like, oh my goodness gracious. It was the early onset of COVID. People weren't exactly sure what was going to happen. Somehow, once again, I escaped it. We don't know how or why, but I am truly grateful. I feel like I have definitely been given a second chance at life. I'm in a rebuild process of everything. I'm rebuilding my body. I'm rebuilding my mind. I'm rebuilding my spirit. I'm rebuilding my business. But I think everybody in 2020 is going to be in a rebuild degree of some kind. And sometimes the very thing that we find is so negative in life is the very thing that we absolutely needed. And it's the greatest blessing we could ever have. And to be able to have the opportunity to redefine, repurpose, rebuild, redesign a life, how many chances and how many times do we ever get that in life? And I'm really, really excited to be able to completely rebuild my look, because I did lose my hair. I lost my eyelashes. I lost my eyebrows, some of my fingernails, some of my toenails. That's the brutal part of it, is that the vanity part of it kind of disappears. The lessons that I learned in oncology are priceless and are gifts that I will forever be grateful for. My hope and my goal is that in 5 years, they will say, yep, we're done. Just last week was my 2-year mark. I had picture day again with the girls. And it was yesterday, actually. It was picture day. And my doctor said, he goes, we're clean, we're clear. And I was like, wow. Sitting in the same parking structure of where I started it and looking back of where I've been in the last 2 years, it's been phenomenal. It's been amazing. I hope to never have to do the journey of chemo and radiation again. But if I do have to do it again, I'm okay with that. I will accept it. I will move on. I will carry on. And I will try my very best to always live in a way that I exemplify my father and that I never disrespect him in any way.
Well, milady, you are nourishment for the soul, and your confidence in your God. I'm a believer too. It is what it is for everybody, but your absolute confidence and lion-hearted braveness to do all of that, and to do it like you mentioned early on. I know you did it with grace, and there's some grit in there too.
Yeah,
yeah, there's a lot of grit in there, perseverance, and you're just an inspiration. And I know that you've got so much more to give. So it is a complete blessing. And I'm humbled that our paths crossed back in the day, and just so honored to know you as a woman and as a human being. So thank you for everything that you do, because in your moments where you're probably not feeling as strong, but you put them out there to everybody else, and it just inspires, that other soul that you might not realize you're touching. So as you talked a little bit about the rebuilding, and I know you're rebuilding your business, and what steps have you needed to take to overcome that challenge? And how has maybe the journey of cancer adjusted your outlook when you sit down to plan and set business goals? And then, of course, the personal goals.
Yeah, it does put a different filter on when you're not sure you're going to live. I mean, it is that. I know it's cliche, but it really has given me clarity and focus, the things that are most important. The dream of the American dream is to have home ownership. It's where family, whether it's traditional family, a cat or a dog, or just you by yourself, whatever that is for you, having roots, having a place to call home, having that respite, having that place where you can shut the world out and just really build those four walls to be what you want it to be is important to me for those people, for people out there. I think my mantra for right now is get up, dress up, show up, and above all, just never give up. It's basic and simple, but it is what it is. I'm going back to the basics. I've always been, or have always tried to be, more of a relationship with my referral partners. I know that some just want a vendorship, and that's totally good, but my goal is to always have a relationship, whether it be in their personal life or their business. I think having cancer has had people come to me and share things in their life that they might not have shared normally, and been able to help walk them through, whether it's just being a listening ear or here's some advice, whatever it is that they want. The building process, just like when you're building your body back up, the whole purpose of chemo is to basically, by and large, take you to the threshold of death and then rebuild you from there. And the building blocks of building your body back up again is the same thing of building your business back up again. You've got to have nutrition, making sure that you're around very positive people, making sure that you're intaking very positive, whether it be podcasts, hopefully that are like this, books, videos, YouTube, whatever it is of genre that works the best, making sure that at least minimally, if you could do 15 minutes, 30 would be best, to really try to rebuild that part of your business. And then the building blocks, the muscles, the strength, the ligaments, all of that. I don't live in fear any longer. I always had a certain measure of fear, even though I grew up with real estate agents and I love real estate agents. Sometimes you're not sure if real estate agents love you back. And so I have always allowed fear to stand in my way of making that phone call, making my prospecting and marketing phone calls. Because what happens if they don't want to hear from you? Or what if they yell at me? Or what if they think I'm stupid? Or, that old saying of, I'm going to eat some worms, whatever. I can't live that way anymore. And I know that if my grandmother had one more day left on the face of this earth, what would she want to do? She'd definitely want to go to lunch. And then she would want to say, hey, get up, get going, keep reaching out, because you never know what someone's going through. When I was going through cancer, it was very apparent when I walked out the door. It was unmistakable the way I looked, what battle I was currently facing. The only difference between, say, me and I'll just pick you because that's who we're talking to. The only difference between you and me is that whatever battle you're going through in your life, you can hide it for the most part. But with cancer and chemo and radiation and everything else that goes along with it, you're not given that luxury. People look at you, they immediately know what you're going through. And some people treat you a little kinder and a little nicer. If we can treat everybody as if we can totally see what they're going through, if we could treat everybody a little nicer, a little kinder, and understand that sometimes it has absolutely nothing to do with me, whether they say no to me that day. It could be because they just got some really bad news from a doctor. It could be that they just got some really bad news about a spouse's job. You can't be that special in life to think that the world completely revolves around you. And so living without fear is how I'm rebuilding my business. Before my cancer, I don't know if I would have done this podcast or not, because I would have felt like I can't go on the permanent record. What if I say something wrong? What if I say something that someone misunderstands or takes offensive? Or what happens if they don't like me? 2 years ago, I probably would have said no to this. But today I'm like, absolutely, bring it on.
Well, you are my hero in so many ways, but it's interesting that you say that because 2 years ago, I couldn't have done this podcast either. And you would have just looked at me with crazy eyes. You could have seen me, and my brother's going to hear this, and I hope he's going to laugh still. I don't know, but he started a podcast, and I have the email, and I was one of his first opportunities to, kind of get some interviews under the belt, if you will. And I had such fear and anxiety. I was in our laundry room talking, and I hung up on him because I had the biggest fear and anxiety attack. I think he maybe got one question out or two questions. I'm like, I can't do it. I hung up on him. So, you're right. The fears and the battles and those, they're either called, the demons that we're fighting or the ghosts in the attic, call it whatever you want, but they're real and they're in disguise. And you just never know what journey someone is on and the steps or the challenges or the fear busters, I call them fear busters, that you have to go through to get where you're at. So I'm so tickled that you're here and we're here together to share your story. And you talked a little bit about, again, nourishing, your soul and nourishing your body and all of those things. And you mentioned a little bit about the intake and the books. Is there a particular author or a series that you enjoy reading that's nourishing you? Is there maybe an inspirational leader, anything that you can share with somebody else that might help them as they take whatever steps they're taking in their journey?
Oh my gosh, there's so many. It's so hard.
Yeah.
The genre basically for me is anything mental, because a lot of cancer is physical, absolutely, but a lot of it is mental. It truly is that mental space that you're in. Fanatical Prospecting by Jeb Blunt is one that I have found to be very helpful as far as building my business back up. When it comes to kind of like the spiritual part, the soul part of it, Robert Schuller was my grandmother's pastor in California. He's best known for the Crystal Cathedral. He was kind of the author of positive thinking, positive mindset. So some of his stuff is really, really good. I'm currently reading a book, and I wish I could remember it off the top of my head. It's How to Stop Negative Thinking. And then, of course, all of the oldies but goodies as far as Napoleon Hill, as far as the power of positive thinking. Those are probably the ones that I go to the most. Kind of those stepping outside of yourself. I think all of us intuitively know what we need to do in our business. It's just finding the time and the resources to be able to do them. Like, I'm impressed that you even know how to do this, because I'm like, I wouldn't even know how to do all this. Like, I don't even know how to find the time to figure out how to do this. I barely figure out Zoom.
Well, I tell you, well, if they knew what you and I went through over the last 2 weeks and then in the last 30 minutes to pull this off, and I tell you what, it's interesting because, again, there were many challenges, but we pushed through because we were like, we're gonna capture this conversation. We need to connect again, and we've got to get your story out there, because there's going to be countless hearts and souls and minds that need to hear every word you shared today, and in the way that only Beckie can share it, and in the context. So this was meant to be, no matter what everything kept coming at us. But that'll be our secret. But Fanatical Prospecting, when you and I sat in that coffee shop, that was a book that you had in your handbag that you pulled out and showed me. I have that book, and we're going to make sure that we put all these books and resources that are mentioned in the conversation here, so folks can go ahead and find those again, so they don't have to hurry up and try to rewind and play. So I'm a believer in that too. So thank you, because you introduced that to me. So as we wrap up, Beckie, once again, it's been an endearing conversation with you. I'm honored and blessed to know you. And as we wrap up our visit, in keeping the promise to share an intentional piece of inspiration, and you mentioned one of them, but is there one piece of go-to advice that you'd like to share with the audience?
Oh my gosh, one. Don't live in fear. Just don't live in fear anymore. Whatever it is that you want to do, or don't, whichever it is, as an individual, as a group, as a team, coming out of 2020, I don't think living in fear is a good thing. It's definitely one of the harder things for me. Be kind, show grace to yourself and to others, and understand that limitations that are put in front of you are sometimes a big blessing. They are things to learn from, hop over and move on to the thing that you're very good at. But I would just say, don't live in fear any longer. And every day I wake up and I have to look in the mirror and remind myself, don't live in fear. Don't live in fear. Don't live in fear. Don't let fear be your rudder in life. I know it sounds silly, but that's what it is. Just don't let fear be your rudder.
There is nothing silly about that. Thank you, thank you, thank you, my friend. So as we do close out, where can our audience go to find and connect with you on your socials or support your continued success?
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Well, my website is mortgageindfw.com, and people can reach out to me there. My phone number is there. My email is there, and they can reach through there. Social, it's Beckie Shiveley at Facebook, I believe is what it is. I would love to grow my friendship, and I would love to grow in that community. I think I do have a LinkedIn, unfortunately, username and password. We're kind of working through some of the technical issues through that. And I do have Mortgage in DFW on Facebook. It's a little bit under construction, but they can reach me there also.
Perfect. And once again, we will make sure and share that in the show notes for anyone who's looking to relocate to the area and needs your help. Because I am a strong believer in Beckie's customer service.
Thank you.
She will go to the ends and the hours up to if need be. Been there with,
yes,
with her.
We've had many long nights between the two of us making sure that everything goes right for people. I'm super impressed. When I saw your mobile office, I was like, oh man, I'm like, if I were ever a real estate agent, I would have a mobile office. I would do this. And when I saw it, I was like, man, I love her. She's just awesome. She's fantastic. It makes our streamline for the client. It's a very comfortable way to do business. And especially with the way business has been this year and moving forward, you had a great deal of forethought in that. And I think that is the one of many, many gifts that you have, is that you have foresight. You understand, well, I think you must understand technology, because I'm always amazed at your technical parts of things. I'm like, how did she do that? But I think the kindness that you show to people, and I've had the ability to watch how you coach and mentor those around you, including your family. I'm a big fan of someone in your family. Watching and seeing, it's not easy raising a family these days. It's not easy when the world is screaming at people to go one direction. It's not easy to make sure that your child is protected from some of those things in the world. And you, my friend, have done an amazing job to be able to grow a very well-rounded person. And that's kind of the legacy that we leave behind, is those people that we have influenced. And you do a great job with that on a day-to-day level.
Well, that was okay. Goosebumps, tears in the eyes, but of gratitude. Thank you. Wow. Very humbling. Thank you, my friend. And yes, I'm in the office right now. So it is, I'm always in it. That's just, like you mentioned earlier, my go-to advice is always get dressed, press, polish, and show up. And so it tickled me that you said that earlier, but this is where we're broadcasting from. And this is, I get dressed and off I go, whether I'm parked or whether we're cruising. So,
well, and I think creating that space, create the space that helps you achieve the goals that you want and how you can help the world at large. And creating those spaces, you are very strong in that. I'm working on that. That's something that I want, is creating that space, looking at my space, how to redefine the space. And I think all of us right now, going into a new decade and a new year and a new everything, it's a perfect time to, as we're transitioning and moving out of, are we going to keep traditional spaces? Are we going to keep non-traditional spaces? What is our space going to look like moving forward? And I think it's important to have a space of tranquility, a space of safety, a space of growth, a space of gratitude, a space that evolves around the support of you, I think is huge. And again, you've always been able to hit that out of the park. You really have a good eye for that.
Well, thank you for that. And I would throw it back your way and say that it is teamwork, and we've all discovered and are discovering that the collaboration, and especially with what's transpired over the last year, is the human connection is undeniable. It is needed. We're humans. We have to be with each other. There's so much you can do on technology, and it's great. It's good to have the balance and the ability to have that. But nothing beats being with each other, and even if it's talking with each other right now or spending that time. So it is teamwork. We are all good together, and that's why we're sharing these stories, is we want to continue to bring light to all of these amazing women and men too, but
yes,
the focus, of course, is sharing these silhouettes of success and triumphs with each other, so we can all build and learn from each other. So Beckie, once again, thank you for sharing your silhouette of success with us. You are just a beautiful soul, inside and out, every which way. You just exude light. And again, thank you. And it's been my honor.
It's been my pleasure and my honor. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Silhouettes of Success podcast. If you enjoyed the show, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out, and join us for all the new episodes. We are here for you and with you. We encourage you to share this podcast on all your socials and pass on the light to help illuminate another silhouette of success. Amber would love to hear from you, and you can find her on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, or head over to amberweitzer.com. Let's connect. Help us all shine and leave us a review too. To find out the latest ways to inspire your heart, ignite your mind, and gain actionable insights, subscribe at amberweitzer.com. We are honored, humbled, and full of joy that you've tuned in. Remember, you are exactly where you need to be, right here with us. This is the Amber Weitzer podcast, Silhouettes of Success.